Hello, this is Marie Boncella with Art to Ride, and this is my yearly submission video with my horse Aria. Aria is a thoroughbred and she's 18 years old, and we've been doing Art to Ride for about 3.5 years-ish, I want to say. And today we're just starting our session off with some work in hand. The work in hand is really, really helpful for Aria to kind of get her in the zone and ready to work. It helps her focus mentally and it helps her warm up. And with the work in hand, I'm really looking for just getting her moving, getting her stepping under her body, and being able to stretch down. And really, it's a nice way to get her walking and warmed up and stretching without me sitting on her back yet, and really just getting her nice and ready to ride. So here she was doing a really good job stretching down, and that's just what I wanted, so I decided to give her a treat and then change directions. She's doing a really, really great job here. A really nice deep stretch. And you can tell that all the energy is coming from her hind end and flowing through her body, through her top line. She's stepping up underneath herself. And here she begins to stretch down again, really, really nice. And when she gets into this really good deep stretch like that, you can even kind of see the energy flowing throughout, like, from the back all the way to the front of her body throughout her whole top line. She's loosening up, she's going nice and forward. You can see the movement in her back. And that was really good, so I decided to stop there and give her a treat. And then we go ahead and move on to the lunging. So on this particular day, it was really, really windy, and Aria did really well with that. Um, but especially because of the wind, she was a bit more nervous than she usually is. So in the beginning of the lunging here, I really had to focus on like getting her to stay out on the lunge line because she kept wanting to come in to be closer to me. So I was really kind of just trying to get her to go out on the lunge line and really kind of get into a bigger circle and really just allow the forwardness, but like also to encourage her to relax so that, when she went with the forwardness, it wouldn't be so tense, and really just try to get her to soften up and just be able to let the movement flow through her and not be so tense about it, and allow her back to come up. Because when horses are really tense in their movements, they tend to be really tight in their backs, and then, they're not going to be able to lift their back up and carry themselves when they're all tense like that. So here she's sort of starting to stretch, but I really want to see her stretch even deeper than this. Here she's beginning to stretch a little bit better. She's still a little bit tense, but I'm really just, trying to encourage her to soften up and relax and just get a good stretch going. Here she had a bit of a spook, so I just asked her to keep going. There she's starting to find the stretch again. Again, I'm asking her to go out on the circle, because after that spook, she of course wanted to cut in on the circle a little bit. But I just keep asking her to go forward, asking her to stay out on the circle. And here she's getting a little bit better with the stretch. The most important part to me is to make sure that even if she is a bit spooky and tense at the beginning of our sessions, that by the end, she'll reach a point where she's nice and relaxed and stretching and stepping under and working over her back. And here she started to get a little bit better, a little bit more relaxed. And every time I feel her get a little bit tense, I just, I remind her to just keep going forward. I ask her to soften a little bit and get her attention back on me. And there she started to get a very nice stretch. And so I let her go back to the walk. And then I was happy with that, so I decided to stop and switch directions. She's a bit more relaxed this direction, but in the beginning here she isn't quite, doesn't quite have as much energy and forwardness as I would like. Here she starts to stretch pretty nicely. I'm just asking her to keep up the forward energy and just sort of soften a little bit whenever she comes up. Really loving that nice, big, deep stretch. This was a nice, consistent stretch here. And this is really lovely. She has got a nice big stretch. She's really tracking up, stepping under herself, got the relaxation. This is just what I'm looking for her. And that was really good. So I just end the trot work there, have her come back to the walk, get a nice little stretch for a second, and then we're done and ready to move on to the riding. Here we're starting out with our ride, just trying to get her into a nice stretch. Trying to get her moving nice and forward. Just asking her to soften whenever she comes up. In the beginning of the ride here, she's kind of up and down a lot with the stretching. And I think some of that is due to me as a rider. I haven't gotten a whole lot of riding in this year. Our barn was on lockdown from about March to May of this year. So both of us, Aria and I, ended up getting a good couple of months off, not being able to ride or lunge or anything. So I am a bit rusty in the saddle at the moment. But I do my best to maintain the contact and keep Aria going forward. I spent a lot of this year, once the barn was no longer on lockdown, and the boarders were safely able to come out and work with their horses again. I've spent a lot of time doing work in hand and lunging. I'm trying to get Aria back in shape and make sure that, she was working over her back and that she was physically fit enough for me to be riding her again. So I haven't gotten a whole lot of riding practice this year. I've been mainly focusing on building Aria's muscle back up after lockdown. I always tend to be overcautious with things like that. I'd much rather do more groundwork than I need to, as opposed to riding her before she's ready to be ridden. I definitely have some more things to work on as a rider. I tend to be tense, and I'm really trying to work on that, because when I tense up, it kind of blocks the energy from moving fully through Aria and carrying us forward. So I want to, help her produce this forwardness and relaxation, but it's a bit counterproductive if, as the rider, I'm not also, being relaxed and allowing that energy to move forward. Here, I think I should have tried to soften just a bit more with my inside rein. She was a bit distracted by something in that back corner there. But here she begins to stretch down again. Again, on this day, it was very, very windy, and so she was a bit spooky because of that. And so I really had to try to get that natural forwardness to work in my favor and try to get her to relax enough without losing the forwardness. Here I have a clip of a ride from a different day. And unfortunately, nobody was available to video me on this ride, so I just set up the camera and let it record on its own. So the footage from this ride isn't quite as good, unfortunately, but I still wanted to include it because I felt that this ride was pretty good, and so I thought it would be worth showing. Aria was a lot more relaxed on this day, and I feel like she got a pretty decent stretch in the trot, and it was pretty consistent. There was a pretty nice stretch. And there. Every now and then, if she comes up, I just soften a little bit and ask her to keep going forward and try to keep the contact steady. And here we're changing directions. And she comes up a little bit, so I just ask her to soften again. I would have maybe asked for a bit more forwardness here. At this point in the ride, she was starting to get a little bit tired, so she does come up a little bit. So I just ask her to soften again and get that nice deep stretch. And then I go ahead and let her come back down to the walk. And we cool down and just finished the ride with a nice big walk stretch. And I was pretty happy with this ride. I feel like we're in a pretty decent place right now, considering that I wasn't able to work with her for a good couple of months due to lockdown. And I look forward to continuing to grow and improve with Aria. Thank you for watching.